Hi, today we're going to talk about how you can determine whether two fractions are equivalent or not. So we're just really quickly going to take a look at 30 over 70 and remember what equivalent fractions are. So equivalent fractions are when you have two fractions that are the exact same value. So if I was to draw a picture, they would take up the exact amount of space. So one way we could come up with an equivalent fraction for 30/70 is dividing the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So 30 divided by 10 is 3, 70 divided by 10 is 7, so 3/7 and 30/70 are equivalent, or they're equal values. Another way would be to use multiplication. So 30/70, if I multiplied both the numerator and the denominator by 2, then I would have 60/140. So 30 over 70 is equivalent to 60 over 140. Now, because you can divide and multiply by an infinite number of numbers, there are an infinite number of equivalent fractions. So you could just keep on keeping on with this. Now that we remember what an equivalent fraction is, we can go ahead and look at our first example. All right, now that we know what an equivalent fraction is, we can go ahead and take a look at this first example. So I have 3/4 and 2/3. So when I am comparing those, I'm going to actually use a picture, but I need to make sure that my picture uses the exact same shape and the same size so that I can have a good comparison. So 3/4, I'm going to split it up into 4 equal pieces and then shade 3 of them. And then down here, I'm going to have 2 out of 3 equal pieces and shade them. Now, I'm going to just kind of draw this straight up, and you can see that my 2/3 does take up less space than that 3/4, so these are not equivalent. Okay, now with those pictures, it was not too bad to tell, but you could see how drawing a picture isn't always going to work because some fractions are so close to each other that it would be hard to see. So this next example, we're not going to use a picture, and we're going to see if there's a different way we can take a look at it. So we're going to use 1/5 and 2/10. Okay, now if I think back to where we discussed what equivalent fractions are, we said that you could multiply or divide. And if I look up here, I can see that 1 times 2 equals 2, and 5 times 2 equals 10. And because I multiplied the numerator and the denominator by the same thing, these are equivalent fractions. All right, we're going to do one more example together. Let's take a look at 12/15 and 8/10. Now this one, I do not want to draw a picture. I don't want to split something up into 15 pieces and 10 pieces and then try and compare. 12, I can't think of a number that I can multiply or divide by off the top of my head to get me to 8, and same with 15 to 10. So I don't know that that's the best strategy. So I'm going to try a different route, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put or make sure that both of my fractions are in simplest form before I compare them. So 12/15, both 12 and 15 can be divided by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So 12/15 is equivalent to 4/5. If I look at 8/10, they can both be divided by 2. They're both even, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the last way we can check to see if they're equivalent is making sure they're both fractions are in simplest form, and then comparing 4/5 and 4/5 are indeed equivalent. So 12/15 and 8/10 are also equivalent fractions. All right, well, there was 3 different methods of checking to see if fractions were equivalent. Hopefully this helps you to determine whether 2 fractions are equivalent.